the 1927 through 1928 Academy Awards. The start of it all, the beginning of an era, etc., etc. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences was established by Louis B. Mayer in 1927, and he also promptly decided that said academy should give out awards. He said that at the time it was basically a carrot for him to bestow on filmmakers in order to get them to make the pictures he wanted them to. The first ever Oscars banquet, it was an awards banquet in ye olden days, since Oscars was not the nickname yet, was held at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles, the building of which was financed in part by Hollywood royalty members Sid Grauman, Louis B. Mayer, Douglas Fairbanks, and Mary Pickford. The hotel has been featured in several films itself, including the 1988 Sunset, which included a recreation of the 1929 awards. The honorees were selected from movies spanning a range from August 1927 to July 1928, and the awards were given out 3 months after the winners had been announced. Douglas Fairbanks Sr. was the host. Understandably, it was not broadcast on television, but neither was it on radio, which had to wait until the next year. Seats were, adjusted for inflation, $92 a pop, and the entire event lasted 15 minutes. There were some other notable differences between this and later awards, such as an actor was able to win multiple times for the same category. There were also several different categories, including Best Title Writing, which understandably did not last. This video focuses on the Best Picture category, and that would be the main difference. There were 2 categories this year for Best Picture, entitled Outstanding Picture and Best Unique and Artistic Picture. I can see why it would be difficult in some cases to separate the two, so it makes sense they would combine them for later years. But really, there were 2 winners for Best Picture this year. And now, without further ado, the nominees in each Best Picture category are... for Unique and Artistic Picture. First up, we have Chang, 1927, directed by Marion C. Cooper. That's right, that Marion C. Cooper of King Kong fame. First off, some appreciation for the poster art. It's really lurid and spectacular. It's attention-getting in the best sideshow tradition. Hats off for that. This is, what's the term? It's not a mockumentary. That's a comedy masquerading as a documentary, but it's a mock documentary. Cooper and his crew installed themselves among the Lao people, who at that time were in the north part of Thailand, which was then known as Siam. Just filming a documentary itself wasn't exciting enough, so they took it upon themselves to manufacture some drama. One might see this as a forerunner to reality TV. They took locals and had them pretend to be a family living in a house in the jungle away from the village. This was completely built for the movie, as the Lao people would never have done any such a thing. It wouldn't have been safe. The story involves the family trying to survive and battling the elements, which mainly involve wild animals. Very important note. This film shows violence against different animals, and although it was staged, it is not pleasant to watch. So keep that in mind if you're going to jump in. Apparently, Cooper got upset when the locals were less than enthused about filming scenes with, example, tigers. I wonder why they might have been less than enthused. As to the film itself, other than said scenes with animal cruelty, it's not too bad in its way and for the time. It is well shot, and it looks good even now. It's nice to see people of other races centered, and although it's not accurate, which, come on, made in 1927, I certainly didn't expect it to be, it's treating these people with a decent level of dignity and respect, at least on film. That's a lot of caveats, but seriously, you have to take things with caveats when they're from another era. So with all that in mind, I still enjoyed it. I would love to know what the Lao people featured in the film thought about it, but apparently no one ever asked them. Second nominee, The Crowd, 1928, directed by King Vidor. Stars James Murray and Eleanor Boardman. aka Vider's second wife. This is a film about a regular guy who has been told from birth by his incredibly proud and supportive father that he is bound for great things and is going to be somebody. Well, partly through the stream of life events, but largely through his own belief in this natural destiny, he ends up being a big talker but never actually makes it big. Then again, how do you define a successful life? Many beautiful, just beautiful shots here, and many of those go on the theme of the crowd itself and how it follows us through life, even if we don't fully notice it because we are in it. And it's telling also how the crowd disperses when the main character really needs someone. Another warning. This film, generally speaking, will make you cry. Two main points to be aware of are, for one, the main character does attempt to off himself at one point, but discovers he doesn't have the guts. Prior to this, one of his children does pass away in a horrible accident. And still, this movie manages to hit the main points of a typical American life. Leaving home, finding work, finding love, marriage, children, all the things those entail. The scene on the beach with the family together is hilarious because it is so true even to this day. And what comes after all those things, including the inevitable questioning of all those things. As said, there are many just beautiful shots. The cinematography is spectacular, no less because it all serves the story. This is very, very well done indeed. Third nominee and the winner, Sunrise, aka Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, 1927. Directed by F.W. Murnau, he of Nosferatu fame. This stars George O'Brien and Janet Gaynor. And I feel the need to mention how silence of this time were really pushing the envelope as far as where they took the camera, and how, and the visual effects they could do. That went almost completely out of the window for the next couple of years as clunky microphones made films briefly more static and stage-bound, so it was very, very cool to see here in all these movies from this era, etc. All the listed films have excellent cinematography and cool tricks on display. Now, to this movie. This one is about a married small village fella who gets his head turned big time by the big city lady who has evil designs and tries to convince him to do away with his wife. And it's a story as old as the hills, and you can pretty much guess what's coming next throughout the film. Although as an entirety, I wouldn't have seen the ending coming at the outset. The key here is in the cinematography, as I mentioned, but also in the acting. That also deserves a mention overall, because so many of us, even film fans nowadays, are conditioned into thinking of silent movies as overacted, but all these films here show that nothing could be further from the truth. Gaynor and O'Brien do quite a fantastic job of showing a couple who have grown apart after the first rays, rays, I'm awesome like that, of romantic love have faded into the humdrum everyday existence. And then they go on a journey of rediscovering that love and forging a new connection. I will say one thing about this story though. In the scene where her husband does in fact attempt to find the will to do the deed, he's standing over his wife, looking with, showing resting murder face, basically, and she realizes what is going on. Now, even though he backs down and is clearly thoroughly penitent and wishing he could do everything over, and she eventually, though thankfully not right away, is able to forgive him and be like, let's move on and rebuild. That doesn't seem entirely realistic, because everything would never be hunky-dory again. She'll have PTSD. She'll always have that, what happened in the back of her mind, and every time he makes a move toward her, she's going to flinch. So, I wouldn't call this necessarily believable. And yes, that makes it a caveat for the viewer that there is both attempted and actual violence against women here. He later confronts his former lover, is blinded by rage, and actually does get his hands on her. It's not a pleasant part. Again, given the time, well, you know. So, for the time. Whether it's deemed a nice little story or no would depend on your personal feeling of for the time. But it is a well-told story. Okay, the other category, Outstanding Picture, brings us to first nominee, The Racket, 1928. Directed by Lewis Milestone of All Quiet on the Western Front fame, which is one of my personal favorites. This stars Thomas Megan, Google tells me it's pronounced Megan, and Marie Prevost. More excellent cinematography and one of those great examples of hard-hitting pre-code gangster drama. Megan is the police officer who stands against the gangster bosses, his way of approaching them on their own terms and with humor, but never giving an inch of letting them know who's really in charge here. That's a class in acting in itself. Now, given the gangster's influence, the police chief, I think he's a chief, he ends up getting demoted out to a station house in the sticks. But then ensuing events lead to him being able to take them all down anyway. Now, I didn't find the story fully engrossing, but then I've never been into gangster films, so maybe that's just me then. I will say that, other than the sets being a little stagey, this was another movie that really did its best to bring it on all fronts. And just a quick note, have you ever noticed that sometimes somebody will, like an actor will remind you, you'll be like, oh, I know I've seen them somewhere, and then it turns out you've seen them nowhere, and that's because they are reminding you of somebody else. It really seems like there are only so many human features to go around. Well, Marie Prevost? I've heard of her, I've never seen her in anything, and it was driving me nuts through the whole movie because she reminded me so much of somebody else. Couldn't think who it was. Turns out it was Olivia Lind in the new Spiderwick Chronicles series. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. Did another video on that. Anywho, back to the subject at hand. The second nominee, but still no winner, is Seventh Heaven, 1927. It was also remade in 1937. This one was directed by Frank Borzage. Stars Janet Gaynor, again, and Charles Farrell. This is a drama. I mean, they're all dramas, which, starting off in an Oscar Best Picture tradition, about a gal who lives with and is abused by her alcoholic sister, and she ends up being rescued from the gutter by a reluctant sewer cleaner, and they end up falling in love. They marry and move in together until the war comes and he has to enlist, and they attempt to keep the faith throughout the ordeal. This is another excellent one with fantastic performances and great shots. Like the passage up the winding stairs of the apartment building to the top floor, it's memorable. If there is a caveat, it is not with the film itself. It is with certain packagings for re-release. Now, all silent movies have music put to them and usually have an original score. And that makes sense. Some level of sound helps to involve the audience, provided they are a hearing audience, more deeply in the story. But the music choice matters a great deal, particularly, when it's the predominant sound in the film. For this reason, it is best if for your certain release packaging, you choose more than one song to play throughout the entire film. The version I happened to watch chose the song Manhattan by Rodgers and Hart to play over and over and over again. Now, not only did this get to be at the least noticeable, and it kind of took me out of the film, but the film is set in Paris, and I just couldn't get over that. Why? Just why? Other than that, great flick, I loved it, and I would like to hear its actual score sometime. And last but not least, the final nominee and the winner. This should come as no surprise to any film fan. Wings, 1927. Directed by William Wellman. Stars Charles Buddy Rogers, Richard Arlen, and Clara Bow. Now, the plot of this film is generally described as two fellows who become pilots in the First World War, and also spar over their love for the same gal. And that is what it's about. But to my surprise, Clara Bow does not play the gal in question. That is the province of Jobina Ralston, who, incidentally, married Richard Arlen after the film was done. As for Charles Rogers, he was happily known as Mr. Mary Pickford. Clara Bow portrays the girl next door to Rogers, who, of course, he doesn't view romantically. The story is a bit thin, although it is nice that the two fellows start as rivals but come to like and respect each other over the course of the story. The real draw here are the aerial shots and the war scenes. Most excellent, far ahead of their time, real chef's kiss, etc. Wellman was a pilot in World War I himself, as well as Richard Arlen, and clearly Wellman knows what he is doing. The flying shots, even from the pilot POVs, are not filmed in front of a screen, which makes it super impressive. I would call it the Top Gun before Top Gun, but I've never seen all of Top Gun, so shut my mouth. I will also say that, as I mentioned oh so long ago when I discussed the film Seventh Heaven, remember those days, the presentation of this film suffered from the same exact issue. One dang song through the entire film. Now, the song was a little bit more suited to the film, but not the whole thing. It was Chopin's, whatever it is, the dun 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 dun, that one. Now, although charming, that isn't at all suitable to the entire story, especially the battle scenes. And it's not a very long piece, whereas Wings clocks in at roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now, at one point, which happened to be during a big battle scene, I had an actual technical issue with the sound. So I just turned on my phone instead and selected some Tchaikovsky, which first was the finale to the Swan Lake Ballet, and then I played March Slav to be exact. And oh my god, I am hired! What a difference the proper soundtrack makes! Okay, so other than that, it's not the most inventive film story-wise, so obviously it wasn't in the artistic category. But it is a good prototype for the type of movie the industry would consider awards-worthy for generations to come. Okay, that was my deep dive into the very first Oscars ever. I had a great time viewing all these films for the first time, and it was really cool to just see, well, like I say, the start of it all, how this grew and mushroomed into the thing it is today. I hope you enjoy going on this journey with me, and do please check out these films. They're all really good and quite worthy of the Oscars they were nominated for. I would love to hear your thoughts on these films if you have seen them, and also any other great silent films of the era with interesting cinematography, great performances, or anything you just happen to enjoy. Please do put it in the comments. Now, until next week, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Find the stories around you and appreciate them for what they are, because, I mean, we're telling the story as we go, right? The story is all around us, it's within us, etc. I guess I'm poetic today. Okay, I'll wrap it up now. Until next week, watch more movies, read more books, enjoy those stories, and just keep doing your very best. I believe in you. You can get through. You can do it, champ. I'll see you next week. Bye now.